So hello and welcome to this video from the massive open online course of Resilience. My name is Joana Amaral Paulo. I'm a professor at Instituto Superior de Agronomia and a researcher at Centro de Estudos Florestais in Lisbon, in Portugal. So I hope you had a chance to check the previous video where I have presented the land lab of Portugal. It is a quite diverse region with different types of land uses. Today, we will be focusing on forest areas that occupy a very considerable area. They occupy 60% of the north region of the country. We have organized this video as follows. So first we'll have a look at main characteristics of the forest land, main challenges faced by forest owners. These were identified in the events that were organized during Resilience. Then we'll have a look at some best practices in action, some case studies, two case studies in fact related with associative forest management. And later on, we want to show you an alternative afforestation strategy that is being made for the conversion of an old eucalyptus stand into a new cork oak stand, taking advantage of the shadow of the eucalyptus. But in fact, we have finally decided that we would produce a specific video on this best practice. So don't forget, when you finish watching this video, don't forget that in this mock you will have a specific video dedicated to this alternative afforestation strategy with all of the description and lots of details about this example. So the main characteristics of the forest land in this region, it is mainly occupied by Pinus pinaster and eucalyptus. It has also a large number of quercus species that exist in mixed forests, mixed native forests. It also has Castanea sativa stands with managed as silvopastoral systems, and acacia species that it's an exotic and an invasive species that brings several times many challenges for reforestation projects. But in fact, the two main forest species are Pinus pinaster, so the maritime pine, and eucalyptus. The land is mainly privately owned, 93% privately owned, and the forest land is highly fragmented in a very diverse landscape where you have a mixture of forest land, silvopastoral land, agricultural land. So the landscape here is quite diverse, quite fragmented, and privately owned. So these characteristics of the landscape of the forest areas in fact are related with the main challenges that farmers and forest owners face. The first group of challenges that they have identified, we grouped them in socioeconomic or governance challenges. As I was telling you, they relate with the small property size that in fact is incompatible with forest management, and that in fact results in land abandonment. Together with the lack of manpower, in fact, the final result of this is the lack of profitability associated to the forest and the lack of economic sustainability. And we must not forget that this is in fact a big issue because sustainability has three pillars, has three different aspects that we must consider: the social, the environmental, and the economic. But if one of these aspects, if one of these pillars is not sustainable, then in fact we will have a problem while managing the landscape. The second group of challenges relate with climate change. Of course, the increase of wildfire risk. We see this also in many other land labs across Resilience. But another issue arises: the occurrence of a fire in a forest area that is more frequent than the rotation period that is expected for the forest stands of the main forest species of the region. As I told you, the Pinus pinaster and the eucalyptus. So in fact, it is quite difficult for a forest owner for a forest owner to decide to make an investment in his forest land if that forest land is small, and if the investment should have a return in 30 years, and across the 30 years that 30-year period, it is expected for fire to be occurring two times or even three or more times. The final group of challenges that forest owners identify related with policy: the lack of long-term governmental strategy, the decrease of public incentives to the forest sector. But a third aspect was referred: the fact that the agricultural and the forest sectors were regulated by two distinct ministries. This, in fact, is quite a challenge if we remember that the region is mainly dominated by an agroforestry landscape. In fact, in 2024, we had an update on this. So after the last elections, the agriculture and forest sectors were again joined together in one single ministry. But in fact, the same problem is maintained if we consider all of the public institutions that forest owners must contact with while dealing with forest management in an area typically dominated by agroforestry practices. So now let's have a look at the best practices that we wanted to highlight. We will highlight two case studies from associative forest management. One dealing with forest intervention zones, and another one dealing with aggregated forest areas. We will also be highlighting the usage of decision support tools as essential for the development of forest management plans. And we'll also be speaking about certification, forest certification, that is so relevant for the certification of ecosystem services and forest products. So let's start by having a look at the Boticas communal area. This includes 22 common lands. It covers a large area of 5,000 hectares of maritime pine forests. You can see the region here in the picture on your right. And what was done in this forest intervention area was, in fact, the development of an optimized harvesting and thinning plan, so of a forest management plan for a 30-year planning horizon, but using a forest simulator that is called the Modis Pinaster. So the Modis Pinaster is a forest simulator that is developed by UTAS, by the University of Trás-os-Montes, that is dedicated to Pinus Pinaster plantations. You can see here an example of the structure of the model in the picture on your right. This model is available on CAPSI, so you can later on have a look at it. And the importance of using this type of tool was the fact that we can test several governance models, test several objectives, test different constraints, all very fast, because the model will allow us to simulate all of these situations in a very fast way. So what was done here in particular was comparing global management models with individual governance and individual management models. And what was clear here was the potential of the global management model in terms of the outcomes of the forest production and in terms of the forest sustainability. For example, while managing the forest using this global management model, it was possible to obtain an area where different age classes of the maritime pine occur simultaneously in the same time. And now an example of an aggregated forest area, and it's the case of the Panasqueira aggregated forest area. In fact, here we have joint management of 15 properties, totalizing 12 hectares. This might not seem much, but if you look at these pictures here that are in fact showing you this aggregated forest, you can see that the strips, so the forest areas are very small, and so putting them together was in fact a way of joining together these 15 properties. The governance model is different from a forest intervention zone. From one hand, it's more informal, but in fact, the outputs are quite interesting. In fact, this started by having a formal agreement that was signed by all of the owners that established the rules for the operation in these 12 hectares, to agree on some common commitments and guidelines to implement a management and an investment plan in this that might seem to us small forest area, but in fact that provided very interesting benefits for forest owners. Benefits that related, first of all, with the motivation of the owners by increasing their expectation of the improved profitability of their forest area. Also, the reduction of the investment risk, mainly by improving fire resilience of this area, and also by allowing that this area was subject to PAFC regional certification. So that is a fundamental tool for the evaluation of the products that will be extracted from this area and from the services that are provided by this forest area. So I hope this was interesting for you. If you want to learn more, don't forget that we have developed writing materials, fact sheets in Res Alliance that are available to you through the website of the project, where you can read more and access more information. And finally, a reminder again, don't forget that we still have another topic that we want to show you regarding the conversion of unproductive eucalyptus stands in cork oak stands in Bragança, while using the shadow of the eucalyptus as a protection to the new cork oaks that are being installed. Don't forget that we have a specific video on this in this mock, and don't forget to watch it. So this is all for now. I just want to thank you for your attention, and I hope to be able to find you during another event of the Res Alliance and or a new opportunity. Thank you very much.